day 2 here at Sigma 3, and got down to wind chill of about 8 degrees, 9 degrees last night, so pretty stinking cold in the teepee. I tried testing out my wool blanket to see how much it would actually hold up to cold weather, and it was great till about 15 degrees, and then as soon as I got into the single digits, I had to bring out the military sleep system. But slept pretty good, and got really excited last night. I woke up and came out and checked on my fire ember bowl, and it was looking perfect, beautiful. And this morning I got a little too ambitious, and sure enough, I burnt out the side of it. So I got a new one started. Last time I did a half log. This time I'm going to try a whole log and see how that works. So check it out, guys. Come. So there's my new one and my old one. I'm gonna burn that one out. And man, that one was looking so good. And unfortunately, I got carried away and sure enough, burnt out the side. What happened was I was actually watching it and then got to building and doing another project. Lost track of time, and that was the end of that. So, anyways, I'm gonna go over here where me and Jeremy have been working on a new shelter design that he's come up with in his head. Engineer guy. So. We'll see if we can get some footage of that today. Hey guys, it's day 2 for me here at Sigma 3 Survival. What day is this for you?
Let's see, this is day 9. Day 8 for me, day 8, yeah.
Day 8. So I'm here today with Jeremy Gwynn, right?
Yeah, Jeremy Gwynn.
And so we had a blast last night getting to hang out and get to know each other. And today we are trying to implement and put into action one of this genius's plans. So he's got an engineer background, so he's got all kinds of great ideas. So Jeremy, why don't you talk us through what your game plan is?
So I'm here doing the survival instructor's course. I'm trying to utilize primitive sleeping quarters as much as I can. So this is pretty much what I've been sleeping in. It's just your standard A-frame debris hut. It's got about 2.5 to 3 foot of forest floor litter over the top. I started with about 2.5 feet of litter for my bed. That is starting to become really compressed, and I'm having trouble getting enough debris in there to insulate me. The weather right now at night is ranging anywhere from 4 degrees to the low 20s, so it's really cold. The ground is frozen. So my insulation is starting to fail on the ground here, so I'm wanting to build an improvement on this. So what we're going to try and do today is build a raised bed longhouse. So it'll be very much like the debris house, but it's going to have archways and it's going to be a rectangle. So it won't be like a small stick debris house. It'll be more like a arched or a raised bed longhouse.
So more oblong roundish and not so much diamond shape or triangle shaped?
That's correct. It'll be, instead of having the A points like this, it'll be an archway.
And what's the benefits to getting rid of the A and going to the arch?
So the arch is warmer and it will support a higher load, like a snow load.
Yeah.
You can put more, you can actually put more insulation on it. The downside is it doesn't insulate against rain as well. It's not as water repellent.
Yeah.
So I think if we have precipitation this time of year, it's more likely to be snow.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm going to give this a try, and if I see a monsoon on the forecast, I'll change and build me an A-frame.
Absolutely. So. Well, let's get to it, man.
All right, thanks.
So here's his new design. He's got 4 logs placed along the bottom, compacting that bottom piece with leaf litter and looking at putting a kind of a raised bed platform before he does his arches.
So this next layer above this raised bed, or above this leaf litter, will be just dead air. So to give you a little information on natural insulation on your shelters, so I'm calling this about 1 foot of insulation. These temperatures, I'm going to engineer this shelter to be good to 0 degrees. That's my goal. So that means I would need about 7 feet of natural leaf litter. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think I can pile it quite that high.
Share with me them again about the different inches per degree temperature.
Okay.
The basic core down to 0.
So at 60 degrees, you need about a foot of litter to insulate your body from the ground and from the ambient air. However, that's a lot of litter to pile up. However, if you will give yourself a 3-inch gap of dead air, that's equivalent to 1 foot of leaf litter. So that's what we're going for here. We're going to put these beams down and we're going to compact these leaves in here, and then we're just going to lay some saplings across them and take some other good straight beams and set them down, and then put some saplings across that, and then put some green boughs over the top of that. So that'll give me about a 4-inch, maybe 5-inch dead air space. So that'll be about 2 feet of litter.
And so that would get you to about 50 degrees, because after you need another foot of leaf litter for every 10-degree drop. Is that right?
That's correct. Now that's if you were in there basically in your underwear.
Mm-hmm.
So since I'll be wearing clothes similar to this, you can engineer it to your temperatures being a little warmer than what it's actually going to be.
Outside, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, trying to decide how to sure it up on the inside. I'm thinking jamming it might be the best.
Yeah.
Or maybe just lashing this to our driven poles might help us. All right, so what we've done is we've constructed our insulation part of the shelter. So we've come in and we've gotten some logs about 10 inches in diameter, and then we've laid some long logs on top of them and some short logs across the ends, and we've come in and we've put stoppers in, kind of a fence between this log and the ground. So the leaves we have on the inside, we can take them and push them up against the fence.
So they're not actually filling the whole thing.
What the purpose of the leaves are is to stop the airflow from going into our dead airspace and causing the heat transfer. So the leaves aren't the insulation, they're more of a
Barrier.
barrier, correct. And between the logs, we had a pretty good gap, so I mixed up some campfire ash and a little bit of water and some soil and made some chinking mud and just went in and filled those gaps. So now I'm going in and I'm cutting cross beams, and I'm going to chink the ends to make a good seal to preserve our dead airspace in here. And then we're going to lay some logs on top of that and some end logs, and we'll go in and we'll fill it with really fine green boughs off of our cedars, and we'll fill that up. That'll be our bed surface right there. And then we'll go over the top of that with some dry leaves for comfort, and then we'll put the top on it.
Yeah, and once again, the top's going to be the bowl shape, and it's looking good. It's coming along nicely, so hoping to get it finished so Jeremy can sleep in it tonight. And hopefully he don't freeze his tail off.
Yeah.
Here, let me give you a close-up of it. So what he's talking about with the dead air space here is there's no leaves in the middle other than on the base, and then pushing it off to the side, so there's dead air space there, and then the mud ash in the corners. So it's coming along great, guys. Old Josh Hamlin in the house. How you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good to see you in person. It's been a great weekend.
This might be enough. I might not need to double stack them. right there. That's perfect.
So getting our ridge poles put in, starting to come along pretty nicely. Still got a lot of work to do, but pretty happy with the progress.
Couldn't have done it without you, man. I appreciate the teamwork.
So we got the ridge poles installed and some other cross members so that we can begin to hang thatching on the little, what do you call this thing again?
I'm calling it a raised bed longhouse.
A raised bed longhouse. So
It's or maybe a raised bed small stick debris shelter.
Or a hobbit house.
Or a hobbit house. I like that one.
And so we changed up the idea of having the entrance on this head side, and we decided to put the entrance on this middle, and Jeremy used some grapevine and built a little door frame there, a little rounded frame, so we'll be able to make a door for it probably tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to make probably a big grapevine door, and it'll come out to about half, and it'll just be a pull-up, and the weight will hold it in place.
Yeah, and the way these ridge poles and everything, they're just driven into the ground, and so we're pretty confident they're going to hold and be solid once we get some weight put on top of them. Big man on a little bitty frame. Looky there. I'm going to join the circus. Finally got the majority of the thatching done, and now it's time to add all the leaves on it and try to get how many feet of leaves we thinking you're going to put on top of it?
All we can get for today.
Yeah. What's your long-term goal?
4 feet.
4 feet on top?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we should be able to at least get a couple feet tonight. Awesome. Let's get to it. Day 2's about wrapped up. Been a very vigorous day building a new shelter, and we're going to probably work on it till dark, hoping to get it finished. So, so we can get Jeremy sleeping in it tonight and try to stay warm. And man, when he gets down in the single digits out here, sleeping in a primitive shelter, it's hard. It's tough on the body. And so it's important that we build these as energy efficient as possible, and that's taking into consideration convection, conduction, and all these other aspects to thermodynamics. And so we're pretty impressed with it. We're pretty stoked. It's something that, Jeremy's an engineer, so he's got all kinds of ideas running through his head, and we don't know if it'll work. It may be a complete bust, but we got a lot of high expectations for it, and so we can't wait to see what comes of it tomorrow. But man, one of the greatest things about being up here is being in the mountains. When you can see all the gorgeous scenery, the mountain tops and the peaks, we're way up high, and so it's just a blast being up here. It is a little windy, I'm gonna warn you. A lot of guys got this romance idea of what survival and bushcraft's all about, and so there is a little bit to it, a little bit of romance where you're like, man, I love what I'm doing, I love this. But there's a lot of heartache and hardship that goes with it too. You got to take the victories and the losses and the failures and the mistakes and the achievements, and you got to run with them and make it happen and make it work. And so that's what Rob and Josh Hamlin, that's what they're all about, is trying to get you to think and strategize and implement an effective strategy plan when it comes to survival, self-reliance, or emergency preparedness. And so well, we put in an all-dayer and got our first layer of the leaf debris put on it, and man, I think it's going to be nice. Need to get probably a couple more inches of leaf debris, but we can work on that later tomorrow. But we've been playing with some different names. We've been thinking about the Woodland Igloo, the Hobbit Hut, the Hobbit House. What was the other ones that you had?
Originally, it was the raised bed longhouse.
Yeah, and that's boring.
Yeah.
No, that's an engineer for you.
Everywhere you go, everywhere you look online, you look up winter shelters, and it's almost always snow shelters. So in the Mid-South or the lower Midwest, we have freezing temperatures for 2 or 3 months out of the year, but we don't really get that much snow. So we have to deal with the same cold they do out west, but we don't have the same building materials they do.
Yeah.
So you see lean-tos with body length fires, and it's always fire dependent. And really the only thing I've found for body heat warmed shelters has been the debris hut. So it's only as good as you can pile leaves underneath you. So that's what kind of inspired this.
Yeah, and so guys, be sure to stay tuned. We'll have a report on how well it works. And how's it going, buddy? Oh, wow. So what'd you think?
Well, I was warm and toasty all night. Worked well. Had the door away from the prevailing winds. I was able to sleep in a hoodie and a light base layer. And what was the low temperature last night?
We got down to 11 last night.
11 degrees with probably into the negatives wind chill. And I was very comfortable. Snow's starting to fall now.
Yeah.
And I'm sold, man. The Woodsman Igloo is definitely a great wintertime shelter.
And it's so funny because we call it the Igloo because we don't get much snow, but it's starting to snow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning to build one of these, check out his YouTube channel, and I'm going to put together a step-by-step instructional, and you can get that and try it yourself.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, I'm pretty stoked about it. I want to get home and build one back at my base camp, and be sure to give it a try. Once again, I think the key to this system and this setup for this is the dead air space. Understanding that there's a science behind what we do, and bushcrafters and survivalists kind of get a bad rap for being a bunch of dumb rednecks, but the reality is there are a lot of science and engineering that goes in to these type of shelters. So get out there and build one for yourself, even if you may not be exactly the same, but a lot of it is just getting out there, putting in the dirt time, and that's where you begin to advance in your skills, guys. So thanks again for tuning in and watching this episode of Dirt Time Adventures. I want to encourage you guys, remember to keep it practical, primitive, and prepared. Also, we'll have some day 3 videos coming up, and be sure to tune in for those.